People forget that groundworks is an ugly job. The problem is people don't see it, they don't want to pay for it. When the kitchen floor starts collapsing, then it becomes relevant. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm on the Verified Build. We do a lot of the internal build works and a lot of the external landscaping. I'm just going to walk you through and show you what we're doing at the moment. If you look to my right, you'll see that we've got the floorboards up and there's actually a void. It's a suspended floor. And what we're doing next door is we're infilling with some recycled type 1. We're building that up in layers, compacting it so it's nice and tight, to then allow us to put a nice solid screed floor down for the new kitchen area. But what we found is that whilst doing that, we've come across the supporting walls. Now, as you can see, if you pan in, you'll be able to see there's a cable coming through the wall and all the uprights and the brickwork hasn't actually got mortar in it. This was done to allow an airflow under the floorboards to stop any damp and whatnot forming. But also it's a weak point. As we're filling in the other side, we've got no choice but to fill in this side as well, because otherwise we could push the wall over. At least this side being built up, it's going to support it and it's going to keep the upstairs walls all right and not come down on our heads. As we start to do the infill, you can see so far, probably 3/4 of the way through it in here. And what we've done is built it up in layers. And you can tell that just by looking at the lower level, how it's been built up and compacted. Now these layers will be about 6 to 8 inches thick, compacted down. Things that we've got to think about whilst doing that is we are on the internal of a building and we need to make sure there's plenty of ventilation because this is a petrol whacker plate. Ear defenders, noise will ricochet off the walls. Make sure you're covering your ears up. Make sure you've got a mask on. But also with type 1, it is advisable to wear safety glasses. Doesn't have to be goggles, just glasses. At least then you ain't got bits flying up in your eyes. So with that in mind, compacting in layers of 6 to 8 inches, building it all up and then bringing it up to a final level and then we're trimming it all up. The way we're doing this at the moment, we were using the rake. Unfortunately, the one of the lads were using the landscaping rake. Wrong type, use one for type 1. The other way of doing it, get a shovel, don't be shy. And all you're doing is pushing your stone out, getting it to a level you want, and you'll come back round. Make sure you get into every corner as well, but try to keep it nice and flat. What you don't want to do is have loads of slopes. Now I know this has been built up here and we've run the whacker up and down it, but that would have been built up in layers first. And it's probably just a blinding just to get the access for the whacker, because what you don't want to be doing, picking it up and dropping it down the hole all the time. You could sustain injury to your back, your legs, pull a muscle, or like that. We want everyone to go home feeling as well as they did when they come in the morning. Health and safety at work. So we've been asked about what we do for the screed and how it goes in. So we're going to build up to here. This is our finished stone level. Once we've got the stone compacted, we're going to blind it with some sharp sand. Now the reason why we do that is, as you can see from the type 1, or the recycled type 1, it's got quite a few big bits in it. If we just put the polythene down straight on top of that, it could pierce it. We don't want that. What we'll do is put a blinding of sand over it, just rake all that over, get it nice and flat, and then we'll put some polythene down. If you've got any joints in your polythene, we normally say get at least 300 mil of overlap. If you've got some like a carpet spray or adhesive, give that a spray on it, just pin it all down, pin it together. Once we've got the polythene all cut in, we'll then import the screed. That's like a semi-dry sand cement mix. And we'll bring it in, rake it all out, and then we'll flatten it down and screed it all off, and then that will set solid. Then the final bit for the floor layer, he'll probably come in, he might put a bit of self-lever if he needs to, if there's any little divots or anything, but then he'll put his matting on top and start laying his floor. Right, so we're asked about how we know that the stone's compacted correctly. This comes back to the doing it in layers. So if you imagine we've infilled this area and it's saying metre deep, and if we thought, you know what, we'll chuck the stone in, we'll whacker it on the top, that'll be fine. It won't. What'll happen is you might compact the surface and maybe 6 to 8 inches into it, because it will drive those little fines between all the big stuff, but you won't get right down to the bottom. And that's why we do it in layers, building it all up. So you can always make sure your whacker plate is driving those fines and the big bits together, filling all the voids up and get it nice and solid. By the time you finish whacking it, you want to be able to walk over it and not have the footprints in the stone. You probably get like a minor tread, but you're not getting big deep footprints in the stone. And they say once you build that up into your layers, your final layer, you go over it a few times, seal it all up, then you put your sand on top of that, and that's when you get ready for your screed. That's how you make sure it's all structurally sound, by doing it in decent layers. Once we've done our bit and we've got all the stone built up and the screeds in, it's just going to look like one big concrete floor. You're not going to see any of this. And then after that, your floor layer is going to come in, he's going to get all of his flooring down, and the kitchen's going to go in on top of that. This will all be forgotten. And this is where all the legwork is, and people forget that groundworks is an ugly job, but it's really important you get it right. And a lot of the time, that's where a lot of your cost comes into it as well. The problem is people don't see it, they don't want to pay for it. When the kitchen floor starts collapsing, then it becomes relevant. So we have to make sure we do our job right so everyone above ground can do theirs right.
As you can now see, the floor, or the massive void beneath the floor, has now been filled in. It's had loads of, I'm gonna say type 1, but it's been filled in, whackered down, so this is actually now a nice, firm, relatively level floor across the whole of this kitchen diner area. The next step will be to pour a layer of concrete over the top, level that out so that will be pretty smooth, and then that is ready for then what will go on top. That'll be self-leveler, LTV flooring, and the kitchen and the units and everything like that can go back on top of that.